The iron gate slams shut behind you with a deafening shriek. Torchlight dances on the damp stone walls. You are shoved into the dirt, smelling of stale urine and dried blood. No one explains the rules. You won't ask questions anymore, because you already know the answer. Your life has been clearly priced to pay off an exorbitant debt your father could never settle. This isn't just an arena. It is a precise machine that devours flesh and spits out gold, and you have just become the lowest gear. Level 1. The consumable meat. You stand in the underground training grounds of Capua. 4 in the morning. The air is piercingly cold. A rusted iron collar is locked dead around your neck. If you turn your head too fast, the rough edges tear your skin. You have no name, the doctor trainer. His breath, reeking of garlic and sheep ale, only calls you number 37. He throws you a rough wooden sword. Rudis. The wood is heavy, stained with the sweat and blood of its previous owner. Thrust. Do not slash. The whip cracks hard against your back. You grit your teeth, staring at the deeply dented wooden post in front of you. Mechanically thrusting forward, at 4:30 a.m., the first blister on your palm bursts, staining the wooden hilt dark brown with your blood. Your meal is barley gruel mixed with ash. No meat, no salt. The system is testing your limits. Here, you are not a warrior. You are a consumable. Your only goal is to survive until today. At sunset, you don't care about the glory of Rome. You only care if you can get a dry straw mat that doesn't tea leak tonight. The isolation is physical. In this cellar crammed with 200 men, no one looks you in the eye, because befriending a dying man is a luxury. Level 2. The bloodied tool. The wooden sword is replaced by real iron. The iron is cold, carrying a fatal weight. You stand on the sand of the amphitheater. Above you is the roar of 10,000 mob members. The sunlight stings your dark. Adapted eyes. Your opponent is a shivering novice, just like you. He holds a spear. In your hand is a cheap, unpolished iron gladius. He doesn't hate you. You don't hate him. But only one man walks out the door. You duck, block, and thrust forward. The blade slides into his abdomen with zero resistance. It feels completely different from stabbing a wooden post. Flesh is soft, warm. He falls into the sand, desperately raising 2 fingers for mercy. The crowd screams throat, uvula. The sponsor apathetically gives the downward signal. Without hesitation, you drive the short sword into his neck. A life vanishes in your hands. You thought you would break down. You thought you would vomit. But you don't. You only feel a sickening wave of relief. It is not me dying today. You return to your cell. A guard tosses you a small leather pouch, 50 silver denarii. This is the first time you hold money of your own. You use it to buy a real piece of roasted meat and a jug of unwatered wine. As you swallow the bloody chunk of meat, you realize you have just sold your soul for a decent price. Level 3. The crowd's pet. You survived 10 matches. You are no longer that faceless swordsman. The owner noticed your agility, and you have been remolded into a resharious net fighter. Your gear is upgraded. No longer crude pig iron. You hold a custom-made steel trident, its center of gravity perfectly matching your palm. Your left shoulder bears a silver gallerus engraved with the god of the sea. You no longer sleep on the floor. You are given a rusty but functional brass key. It belongs to a private cell with a wooden door and a lock. You begin to understand the deep logic of this system. The currency of this game is not just violence, but performance. Today, your opponent is a heavily armored gladiator. You don't kill him immediately. You trip him with your net. You taunt him. You dance on the sand. You hear noblewoman in the stands, screaming your stage name. Lion tear him apart. You enjoy this vanity. When you hover the trident over his throat, 10 minutes later, the entire arena boils for you. You earn 500 denarii a match. Your room is piled with premium olive oil and linen tunics. But the danger has escalated. You find trace amounts of laxatives in your food from jealous peers. You learn to sleep with a sharpened iron nail hidden under your pillow. You are no longer afraid of the swords in the arena. You start fearing the shadows in the corridors and the smiles of your companions. Level 4. The Ruthless Enforcer. Your signature now is an extremely heavy, ornate bronze helmet, crested with a golden eagle. When this helmet appears in the tunnels of the Colosseum, The rookies instinctively avert their eyes. You have become mid-level management within the system. The owner Lanista grants you privileges. You can walk the camp with a blade. If a rookie talks back, you can shatter his nose bridge directly without facing punishment. Your accounts hold thousands of silver coins. More absurdly, the high and mighty noblewomen outside are willing to pay astronomical prices for small vials of scraped sweat and grime from your body, using it as an aphrodisiac perfume. You feel disgusted, but you take every coin. Corruption begins to erode your nerves. You receive a secret directive. In tomorrow's exhibition match, sever the Achilles tendon of that rising young gladiator in an accident. If you do, the owner gives you a 10% cut of the betting pool, which means 20,000 silver coins, on the sand the next day. When the young man unsuspectingly turns his back to you, your blade slices precisely through his heel. Listening to his agonizing screams, your heart feels absolutely nothing. You're no longer a warrior, you're an armored assassin. You pave your upward stairs with the blood of others. Level 5, the Golden Canary. You have become a superstar of the Empire. Your weapon is no longer used for real killing. The Emperor himself gifted you an ivory, hilted ceremonial sword. You wear garments stitched from silk. And during the day, you can even leave the gladiator school to stroll the streets of Rome. Your wealth has reached heights an ordinary person could achieve in dozens of lifetimes. But the price of power is absolute paranoia. The men walking behind you aren't bodyguards. They are Praetorian guards assigned to monitor you. A teenage slave permanently follows you. His only job is to take a bite of your food before you eat, in case of poison. Watching his expression of relief for not being poisoned to death every day after swallowing the food fills you with a sense of sorrow. You have become a massive asset. Sponsors use your name to forge political marriages. Senators use your appearances to pacify rioting plebeians. You sit in a chariot adorned with gold threads, looking out the window at the lower class, citizens going crazy for you. Yet all you feel is a suffocating claustrophobia. If your fame drops, if you show a single hint of fatigue in your performance, the system will instantly throw you back onto the bloodthirsty sand. You cannot have friends, because everyone around you is calculating how much cash you can be liquidated for. Level 6. The Architect of Pain, 45 years old. Amid the cheers of 100,000 people, the Emperor places the sacred wooden sword Rudis, representing absolute freedom, into your hands. You take off the virtual collar around your neck. You are free. You could have left with massive wealth, bought a farm, and lived out your days. But you don't. You realize you can no longer breathe in the normal world. Outside the ecosystem of violence, you are nothing. So, you return to hell. You buy shares in the school and become the new doctor's senior trainer. Now, the item that represents you is a thick bullwhip. You stand on the wooden platform, looking down at the hundreds of trembling rookies. You look into their eyes, seeing exactly who you were decades ago, but you have no sympathy. You begin to personally establish and maintain those invisible rules. You deliberately cut the rations of rebels. You distribute the worst pig. Iron swords to gladiators who refuse to flatter you. You control the top fighters, pain with narcotics. You personally select who goes to feed the lions in the midday execution shows. When that whip strikes a young man's spine, a twisted sense of pleasure actually rises within you. You have finally evolved flawlessly from a victim of the system to its perpetrator. Level 7. The Shadow Broker. The former owner dies, accidentally, from poisoned wine. You logically take over the entire industry. You are now the highest level Lanista owner. You no longer touch weapons. Your only weapon is the solid gold signet ring on your right index finger. When this ring is pressed onto parchment, it dictates the flow of millions of denarii and the life or death of hundreds of men. You wake up every day in a villa paved with mosaic marble. The people visiting you are Roman consuls, generals, and black market merchants. You no longer care who bleeds on the sand. You only care about the macro chips. You hold lethal information. Which general owes massive gambling debts? Which noblewoman is having an affair with a gladiator? You use this blackmail as leverage to extort the Senate into granting you bigger venues and better tax rates. You have completely lost your private life. 3 layers of guards stand outside your bedroom. You wouldn't dare drink water handed to you, even by your own biological daughter. You look at the mid-level managers below you trying to climb up. You know exactly what they are plotting, because you did the exact same thing back then. You own 1/10 of the empire's wealth, yet you live like a rat, trapped in an ice cellar of extreme paranoia and endless dread. Level 8. The untouchable myth. You are old. You think you have completely transcended the game, becoming the untouchable architect of the system. The item that represents you stands in the center of the Roman Forum, a life-size marble statue commissioned by the emperor himself. The you on the statue is forever young, strong, holding perfect weapons, symbolizing Rome's unyielding martial spirit. You are a myth, a perfect bait that makes all lower class gladiators willing to die for this dream of success. But you forgot that when a man becomes a perfect statue, he is no longer needed in reality. You hold too many secrets, and the wealth you control is too massive. So massive that it poses a substantial threat to the newly ascended emperor. It is a completely ordinary stormy night. Your most trusted lieutenant, the young man you single-handedly promoted and personally taught how to ruthlessly exploit, walks into your room holding a cup of top-tier Falernian wine. You drink it. Just 10 seconds later, your internal organs flare with agonizing pain as if ignited by fire, and your legs instantly lose all sensation. You fall from the expensive silk-cushioned chair, crashing heavily onto the cold marble floor. You look up at your lieutenant in horror. The Germanic guards outside the door make no sound. They have clearly been bribed or removed. The lieutenant looks down at you from above. There is no hatred in his eyes, only the cold, calculating look of a businessman that you are all too familiar with. He crouches down and whispers in your ear, "My lord, His Majesty needs to take over your industry to fill the treasury, and the audience in the arena needs a new legend." Your vision begins to blur. Blood spills from the corner of your mouth. 1 second before your heart stops beating, you finally see the ultimate face of this massive machine clearly. No one is the chess player. Everyone is just fuel for this meat grinder. It fattens you up with honor and gold, strips away your conscience and soul, until the day you lose your utility value, and then ruthlessly harvests you. The end of supreme power is not a throne, but a poisoned dagger thrust from behind. At this very moment, far away in a cellar in Capua, 4 in the morning, the iron gate slams shut. A 17-year-old boy is shoved into the dirt smelling of stale urine. A rusted iron collar is locked dead around his neck. The whip-holding doctor throws him a rough wooden sword. The boy looks up, his eyes filled with fear, but also hiding a trace of ambition. He thinks that as long as he swings this wooden sword, as long as he is strong enough, one day he can control his own destiny. He thinks he can win this game. He has absolutely no idea what is going to happen. He doesn't know the betrayal, money, blood, and isolation waiting for him. But you do. You know it all too well.